Our theme this month is stewardship. I love our plan. Sufi teacher Llewellyn Vaughan Lee wrote in Spiritual Ecology, The Cry of the Earth. The world has been through many crises over the millennia, but this is the first global crisis that has been created by humanity. Whether we take responsibility for our predicament will determine our future and the future of the world. There is an ancient teaching that in times of that in the future of the world, there is an ancient teaching that in times of imminent catastrophe, excuse me, we are given the opportunity of divine intercession. We can look towards God and pray for divine help. We are at such a moment, and the soul of the world is crying out. Are we prepared to welcome back the divine and work together with the forces of creation? Rumi, the Sufi poet, wrote, "There are 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground, and it is this sacred ground that is calling to us, that needs our living presence, our attentiveness. Let us kneel and kiss the sacred ground by affirming together with love. I
I recognize that Mother Earth is a
sacred
sacred creation of the universe.
It is our common home.
Therefore, I let go of apathy, overconsumption, and other attitudes that harm the planet. I choose thoughts, words, and actions
that lead to
to ecological renewal and sustainability. Thank you, Marcy.
Alrighty, so we have already done really good on our, is that more proper? On our sustainability path. So, as a lot of people have noticed, next to our water now, we just have mugs instead of plastic containers. We also switched over as much as possible. We still have a few things to just use up, but we've switched to mostly all paper products instead of styrofoam or plastic, which is better overall. We've shifted over to a lot of recycled materials like our tissue paper, our toilet paper, our paper towels, all those are recycled. So we're going in the right direction. So I'm actually going to start adding in a tip every single week into the newsletter for simple things you can do to continue that path that are easy and can really make a difference. And the first one I'm just going to give the tip out today is if you have not yet switched over to using bags, your own bags at the grocery store, this is the time to do it. They have them everywhere. And we're actually going to be getting some Center for Spiritual Living ones. That have little clips. You can clip it to your purse or to your, I guess your pants, I don't know. But in your car. And just always have that habit of keeping it by putting it right back in so you can use it every time. And of course, you might need more than that, but that's the next tip I have. That's a very easy one that so many people are doing, and you can just totally pick up on. And so we'll keep on adding little tips. You can try one out each week and just start to move it into your regular life. So that's the next one. And we should hopefully have those by next week. I'll have those for sale. And then we'll keep adding more things.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Michelle. I want to start by reading a quote by the U.S. Advisor on Climate Change, James Gustav Speth. He said, "I used to think that the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that 30 years of good science could address these problems. I was wrong. The top environmental problems are," listen to this, "selfishness, greed, and apathy. Selfishness, greed, and apathy, he said, are the top environmental problems. And to deal with these, we need a cultural and a spiritual transformation. Is that powerful? That scientists are now realizing that we have to go to the root cause of all of this. So today and this month, I am focusing on this beautiful theme of ensuring the stewardship of our planet through the power of love, through the quality of love, the power of love. So let's begin. I actually have three different ways to approach this. I'm going to be talking about the principle of as within, so without, which is the law of correspondence. I'll be talking about the principle of oneness, interconnection, unity, and then about the power of love. We'll end with that. So as a spiritual and cultural transformation, let's think about that. This acknowledges the law of correspondences. As within, so without. This is what we teach. This is what we've been talking about like every month, right? What we've been doing in this spiritual community and what other New Thought spiritual communities have been doing for a long time is really bringing back this principle of truth into our awareness. That if we truly want to transform the things that are going on the planet, then we begin within. We begin within. It's a matter of consciousness. This realization that consciousness creates our experience on this planet is not a new thing. It's been around for ever, pretty much since humanity wakened up to their own, to the divine. There's been an awareness by the indigenous cultures on our planet for the millennia that the importance of seeing everything as one, seeing all the animals and plants and everything as brothers and sisters, and seeing the planet, Mother Earth, as a living being that provides for us, that's conscious, that's awake, and that's aware. This is the consciousness of oneness. It's the understanding of the interconnection of all life, that we can't just think of the planet as something outside of ourselves. It really is ourself in expression. We're very much an integral part of this entire planet. So as we continue to awaken to the sacredness and the holiness of the divine as Mother Earth, as our own bodies. I mean, how well do you take care of your body? That's a question that I'd like to ask. And it all begins with our thoughts. What are the thoughts we think about our own bodies? Because this is part of the sacred creation of the divine. And often what happens is that gets outpictured in the way we treat other people on the planet. Not always, but often it does. And our thought world, are we polluting human consciousness with our thought world by thinking negative thoughts? Or are we mindful of our thoughts? And if a negative thought arises, do we shift into a more loving space? So we can begin just simply with our thoughts, because that's where the cause takes place. That is the causal realm of what we see in the physical expression of the divine all around us. So our own thoughts about ourselves, about each other, bringing the qualities of the divine, of love, into that thought world. And it's known as the law of correspondence. As within, so without is another way of saying that there is a thought behind, or a belief or an attitude behind what we see in physical manifestation. So practices like recycling and composting and all the things that Michelle talked about, alone, they are so helpful, but alone they don't do it. We must get to the root cause, which is in consciousness. So a belief in duality, let's explore that a little bit, because the belief in duality of God and something else, or myself and something else, is at the root of environmental degradation. Think about that. Seeing the earth and other living things as commodities or things that we can exploit is that which is polluting our planet and its peoples and its creatures. And here's the thing, the consequences are that we're not only destroying our planet, this is our home. This is the place where we reside. And so that's why in that consciousness of oneness, we realize how we treat the planet is how we're treating ourselves. And I feel like I'm speaking to the choir here, because I know there are awake, aware people here. And yet I'm inviting all of us to up level in our awareness of what oneness really means and how it really shows up in our day-to-day affairs. So let's explore this idea of oneness. So spiritual transformation then takes place as we embrace the idea of oneness, that all there is one thing happening here. It is the power and the presence of God. It is the activity of God. And everything is interconnected, everything is mutually supporting. And when we awaken to this truth, that all there is one life, we begin to see differently. We begin to see that God is everywhere. That's why I invite everybody on Sundays to look around and see all the many expressions of God around us. As we begin to see differently, to see the divine everywhere, we realize that that consciousness takes us into right action automatically. We don't have to force ourselves to stop using so much plastic. We don't have to make ourselves do it. We are just so mindful of everything that we do as the one presence that we just automatically start shifting into behaviors that treat the earth better and treat each other better and treat ourselves better. And so this oneness perspective is embraced by those who are part of the planetary movement called spiritual ecology. Spiritual ecology meaning the understanding that science and spirit and what's happening on the planet is all one thing. They're not separate disciplines, it's all one thing. And it's made up of an array of spiritual and religious leaders and organizations that are dedicated to spiritual transformation. When I read about it online, I was thrilled to see how many organizations there are in all the different spiritual traditions, including the indigenous spiritual traditions, and how they are all working together to do something proactively in consciousness, but also in action on behalf of the planet. And the key piece of spiritual ecology is that in order to have this deep spiritual transformation, it's about having a direct experience of unity with God, unity with the divine. That takes place through spiritual practice, through meditation, through spiritual study, through spiritual mind treatment, through spiritual community. And so that is the ultimate solution to planetary degradation. The book Spiritual Ecology, The Cry of the Earth, has a series of essays that are written by spiritual leaders representing all the major spiritual traditions in the indigenous cultures. And I highly recommend it. I've just started reading it. I haven't gotten all the way through it, but what I've read so far has really touched me deeply. And I want to share one of the quotes by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's involved in what's called engaged Buddhism. bringing Buddhism into action in the world. He said, real change will only happen when we fall in love with our planet. Only love can show us how to live in harmony with nature and with each other and save us from the devastating effects of environmental destruction and change, climate change. We are so loved. We are completely loved by God, by the divine. And divine love is what we are made of. It's the very substance of our being. Divine love lives in our hearts. Divine love is everywhere. The chair that you're sitting on is made out of the divine love of God, the substance of God. Every stone and rock and plant and animal, all expressions of divine love, the energy of love. So when we wake up to this truth, we realize that love endures. There's nothing that can destroy love. It brings sweetness, it brings ecstasy, and it brings a deeper knowing that we belong to one another. We belong to love. It's the most powerful force in the universe. And really only real unconditional love, the only real love is unconditional, which means that we love without condition. And that we are instruments then of divine love. We're already lovable and loved, and so now it's important for us to be all we are capable of being and do what we are capable of doing, which means to be that love in expression more fully. In Come Sunday, Bishop Carlton Pearson asks, why is everybody so scared to love each other unconditionally? Why? Why are we so scared to do that? It's because we don't know who we are. That's what I believe. And so when we know that we are love, we're made out of love, then it's easier to love unconditionally because we realize that love cannot be taken away from us. The more we love, the more there is to offer. So our unconditional love for the earth will heal that which we have desecrated. Unconditional love of the earth will heal it. This is the call of all of those involved in the spiritual ecology movement. And that even involves Pope Francis. He too has put out an encyclical on the importance of transformation of consciousness and of beginning to see the planet as part of ourselves. So love, what does love do? Love speaks the language of unity and oneness rather than separation. It's fear that speaks the language of separation. So I'd like us to take a moment and let's do a practice. I'd like you to turn within and say to yourself in silence, I'm an instrument of divine love. Feel that in your heart. And then say to yourself, I have decided to be all that I am capable of being. So that I can do all that I am capable of doing. I have decided to love Mother Earth and all of its inhabitants. I have decided to pray for her, to give thanks for her, and now imagine yourself as your essence that goes far beyond your body, and just shoot yourself right out into the universe so that you can see how large and vast you are as an individualized expression of the divine. And then behold Mother Earth in front of you. Feel a deep sense of love and appreciation for her, and now place her in your heart. Let love and gratitude from your heart flow to wherever on the planet it is needed. And offer Mother Earth completely to the God within. And now notice that things are turning around. There's an awakening of humanity to the sacred. Notice that more and more people are giving up their old ways and embracing healthy thoughts, words, and behaviors that honor the earth and each other. Ecological renewal is visible as clean waters, air, and land. And you are witnessing the healing power of love. Take a breath. And let's say together, yes, and so it is. Amen.